Madam Speaker, we are going to discuss tonight the cut, cap, and balance bill that will come before this body tomorrow morning. And I just want to express some thoughts about how desperately important I believe this bill is for America. I've seen in the media oftentimes the bill diminished, sort of minimized. Madam Speaker, I believe that this is an opportunity that is very unusual for those of us in this body to have, where we can put this nation on a track to fiscal sanity and where we can truly do that thing that we were sent here to do. And Madam Speaker, let me begin by saying that all financial budgets will eventually balance. No individual, no family, no business, and no government can indefinitely continue to spend more money than they take in without someone having to make up the difference. Madam Speaker, that includes the budget of the United States federal government. Neither Mr. Obama nor congressional Democrats can repeal the laws of mathematics. The federal budget of the United States government will eventually balance, Madam Speaker. The question is whether the House of Representatives, the United States Senate, and the White House will work together to balance this budget ourselves by wise policy, or national bankruptcy and financial ruin will do it for us. From the day Barack Obama walked into the White House, he has, with breathtaking arrogance, absolutely ignored economic and financial reality. It took America the first 216 years of its existence to accumulate the debt that Barack Obama has accumulated in the short 2.5-year span of his presidency. During his short time in office, Madam Speaker, he has increased our federal debt by nearly $4 trillion. Just to put that nearly $4 trillion in new debt in perspective, let me put it this way. If all of a sudden a wave of responsibility swept through this chamber and we stopped all deficit spending and began to pay installments of $1 million every day to pay down the nearly $4 trillion debt that Barack Obama has created in just 2.5 years, it would take us more than 10,000 years to pay it off. And that's if we'd have to pay one dime in interest, Madam Speaker. But you see, we are not paying off Mr. Obama's debt down at $1 million per day. We're going deeper into debt, more than 4,000 times that $1 million a day, every day, under Mr. Obama's own submitted budget and deficit projections. Let me say that again. If we paid down the debt $1 million a day, the debt that Mr. Obama has accumulated in his 2.5-year presidency, it would take us 10,000 years to do it. But we're not doing that. We're not doing that, Madam Speaker. We're going deeper into debt, 4,000 times that much every day. Almost $4 billion per day. And then when speaking of the effort to reduce the deficit, the President has the hubris to tell conservative Republicans to take a balanced approach and to eat our peas. Madam Speaker, if there is anything more catastrophically out of balance than our federal budget, it is the arrogance to competency ratio of this White House. We have already tried Mr. Obama's way. We have far too long been testing Democrat Economics 101, the theory that is, as Vice President Biden put it, we have to spend money to keep from going bankrupt. Madam Speaker, when it comes to balancing our budget, Mr. Obama and the liberal media have suggested that Republicans are unwilling to address the revenue side of this equation, but that isn't true either. Just because Republicans are not willing to increase job-killing tax rates on this country doesn't mean we don't understand the revenue side of the equation. History and experience has demonstrated time and again that the best way to increase the amount of revenue coming into this government is to get out of the way and the private sector to increase the number and quality of jobs for the American people. This has always, historically and always, Madam Speaker, resulted in the increased productivity and the broadening of the tax base in this amazing nation. And yet the President is willing to ignore that history and the reality of Americans' amazing economic engine and kill the goose that lays the golden eggs by raising taxes. Madam Speaker, that's like saying that putting additional weight on the back of a racehorse will help him win more races. You'll recall that the Democrats, when they had control of Congress, raised the debt limit 6 times. I so clearly remember the surreal spectacle at the time of Senate Majority Leader, or then Majority Leader of the House, Steny Hoyer, leading the entire Democrat caucus in a rousing standing ovation after the debt limit was raised by $2 trillion in 2010. We have watched as President Obama ran up a $1 trillion deficit for the first time in history, and then break that record the very next year, and then say that we would have $1 trillion plus deficits, quote, for years to come. We have watched as Mr. Obama and the administration has promised that if we would just allow them to spend another $800 billion on their stimulus package, that the economy would rebound, and then unemployment would never go beyond 8%. But now, Madam Speaker, the American people have awakened, and they are tired of Democrats telling them that 2 plus 2 equals 13. So as we now find ourselves facing the prospect of raising the debt ceiling yet again, Republicans have said the only way we are going to consent to raising the debt ceiling is if we cut spending by the same amount we increase the debt ceiling, and then if we give the people and the states of this nation the historic opportunity to adopt a balanced budget amendment to our Constitution to put this country back on the track of fiscal sanity once again, Madam Speaker. Now, I know that Mr. Obama and the Democrats have falsely said that the balanced budget amendment is really just a Republican plan to destroy Social Security and Medicare. But the truth is that the bill we're going to be voting on tomorrow does not cut Social Security, it does not cut Medicare, and it does not cut the compensation to our men and women in uniform by 1 dime. But the balanced budget amendment does give us an honest chance of reforming and saving those programs and our country from bankruptcy in the future. Mr. Obama and the Democrats have constantly said that we need to take a, quote, balanced approach and include increased taxes in the equation. But I've already said, Madam Speaker, increasing the rate of taxes will decrease the productivity of this nation and will ultimately decrease the revenue that comes into this government. It is the economic equivalent of mixing dirt and ice cream. It is a poor recipe to embrace in the name of balance. Madam Speaker, the truly balanced approach to this problem is a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. By passing this cut, cap, and balance bill, along with the balanced budget amendment, we have a rare opportunity, and it's one that may never come again, Madam Speaker, of doing something truly historic that will save this nation and its people from economic ruin. Now, if the President and the Democrats will help us do this, together we can restore hope and confidence in capital markets inside the United States and really all over the world, because those markets will see that in the long run that America is going to make it. Now, it may take 6 or 7 years to fully ratify this constitutional amendment once it's sent to the states. But we owe it to the states and to the people to give them this chance to save their nation. In the meantime, we can work hard here to expand this economy and to balance this budget that we work with here every year, so that when the amendment is ratified, we will be ready to go forward together as a nation to embrace the greatest days we have ever seen. However, Madam Speaker, if the Democrats and the President are not willing to give America and the American people this chance by helping Republicans pass a balanced budget amendment in this Congress, the resulting consequences will be theirs alone. And I believe the people will hold them accountable for whatever financial disaster may follow. You know, Madam Speaker, long ago, Thomas Jefferson said, "I wish it were possible to obtain a single amendment to our Constitution. I would be willing to depend on that alone for the reduction of the administration of our government to the genuine principles of its Constitution. I mean an additional article taking from the federal government the power of borrowing." Madam Speaker, it turns out Thomas Jefferson was right the vast majority of the time, and we have been those who have seen the best of some of the principles that he espoused so long ago. How I wish his contemporaries had listened to him about the balanced budget amendment. But in this moment in history, America may get a second chance, Madam Speaker, but we may not get it again. You know, I don't often quote Shakespeare, but long ago he wrote in a play this quote that I think applies to us today. He said, there is a tide in the affairs of men, which taken at the flood leads on to fortune. But omitted, all the voyage of their lives is bound in shallows and in miseries. Upon such a full sea we now find ourselves afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our venture. In this time of crisis, we are also standing in a place where the tide is high and the opportunity is real for us to do something that will truly turn things around for this nation. Madam Speaker, this is not the Democrat Congress of last year that gave a standing ovation to a $2 trillion increase in our debt limit. This is the Congress that was sent here by the American people to turn things around. And that starts by drawing the line on spending and saying thus far and no further, and passing a balanced budget amendment to the United States Constitution. By the grace of God, Madam Speaker, that's exactly what we're going to do. And with that, I would like to yield to the gentleman from Indiana for such time as he may consume.